You're listening to the What's the Fuzz podcast, where we break you out of your vacuum seal and get down to what's real. Never miss another episode again. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. And now, your host, Reiner.
Happy July, everybody. It's your fur Reiner. As of today, one of the 3 policemen involved with the murder of Elijah McCain has been fired, and at this point, none of the others are facing arrests. I bring this up not only because it's an important moment in history right now with the civil rights movement ripping across this country, but also because for the months of June and July, maybe August as well, we'll see, I'll be interviewing furries mainly from the LGBT plus spectrum, who also happen to be black. And if you're wondering, yes, I am black and Mexican myself. Anyways, today I'm interviewing a cartoon reviewer, actor, and charming, honestly, black furry by the name of Jason Blade. You can check him out on YouTube or on Twitter at JXB Reviews. How you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me. It's pretty awesome that we get a chance to do something like this.
Hell yeah. I'm all about elevating black voices in the community.
Yeah, it's good because I know that when it comes to furs of color, we don't really get a lot of representation here. And it's always good for us to help uplift each other in any way that we can because, it's things that we have to deal with every day is real, whether in the furry community or just in life in general. So it is important for us to go ahead and continue to represent us for who we are and be the best of what we can be.
So, what got you interested in the furry fandom in the first place? We've been talking about the furry fandom. I would like to know what got you into it and if it's a big part of who you are now.
Cool. All right. So, I recognized the furry community when I was about I think I was about 15 or 16 at the time. I wouldn't say I was officially a part of that fandom at that time, really, but I first really discovered it around there, and it was around the time when I was looking around in DeviantArt and stuff, because I was originally from a voice acting community as well that was a part that did a lot of animations. So it's mainly the animation, the animated series that focuses on wolf packs and warrior cats and things of that nature. So it was pretty much it was kind of where I got a little bit of my standing doing those type of projects, and it was fun. And a lot of those artists had DeviantArt, so I made a DeviantArt. And when I was looking around, I was looking at some sports related stuff because I am a sports fan. And what I discovered was an art piece that featured a lion basketball player playing playing basketball, obviously. So, when I saw that, I was like, wow, this looks really interesting. And I just saw this person's gallery, and a lot of their work is going towards that idea. I see players in different jerseys, different species, and I was really hooked to that idea. And so I looked into one of the descriptions, and it said that it was from a project called the Furry Basketball Association. And I was like, oh, okay, I want to see what that is. And so when I looked in there, that's when I noticed that it was more than just the art. There was just a whole community that was focused on the idea of furries playing professional basketball. And I thought that was the coolest thing. So I lurked a little bit. I didn't really make a account there or anything at that time as of yet. I just mainly lurked, and that's what got me into creating a for affinity account as well to just simply lurk and stuff like that. And I didn't really like start saying that I'm a part of the furry fandom until I turned 18, shortly after I graduated, because I felt like that, considering how young I was, and since I was on Furry Affinity, there were going to be that type of art. So I knew, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna lurk around a little bit before really kind of diving into it, you know. But but even before then, when I was like 17, I started kind of making my own persona in a way, and it was a bat still. Like, I've kind of kept the same bat all my life, but he was completely different to what he is now.
Was he neon?
No, he wasn't neon. He still had like the blue red color scheme that I got going on now.
Mm-hmm.
But he was basically like a little small baby boy. Like, he was like that chibi type fur. You know what I mean? But yeah, as soon as I like turned 18, I finally took the courage to go into that space again and really play. And once I did, created a character within that community, and I've kind of like blossomed since. Like, I pretty much became a full-fledged furry because of that, because of my interest in that project, and I'm still in it today. It's really been fun to be a part of, and really kind of express writing stories and commissioning art of these certain characters, and it was great. I think another thing that really kind of helped me become who I am is starting to pay attention to my local community as well, and that got me to know one of my closest friends, that's also a fur of color, too, and we've been buds for about 3 or 4 years now. So I think that, like, without discovering that image, I wouldn't really be where I am today. I probably will still be depressed as fuck. Because, you know, I've had those type of issues, but I think like the furry fandom really helped me feel you know, more proud of myself and be more open to being who I am. So I think really the combination of the furry fandom, and of course me being a part of of me getting into theater, because that was around the time when I was finally figuring out that like acting or being a part of that industry is something that I really wanted to do in life. So I think the combination of those two pretty much made me who I am today, and I think without those, I would be very different. I think I would be in a very different space than what I am now.
So on one hand, you had the furry fantasy basketball team, and
Yeah,
on the other hand, you had theater.
yeah, yeah. So I think like the combination of those two really kind of made me be more outgoing, and also be able to kind of figure out who of what I am sexually and things of that nature, and help me discover who I am. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for all the friends that I've been able to meet as the time went on, and the memories that I've made is special, and I think that that's something that I will always cherish throughout life, even after, God forbid, if there is an after, I decided to say, you know what, I think that I'm ready to close this chapter in my life, which probably isn't going to happen for a while. So, but yeah, I think that's really the main thing.
Oh, damn. That's actually really nice.
Mhm.
Fandom helped you get all acquainted with yourself. That's really nice.
Yeah, you know,
But,
and of course,
going back to that tidbit about your sexuality, how do you feel being a furry changed that for you? How did it help it develop?
well, I think it's funny because I didn't really think about my sexuality growing up, to be honest with you. Of course, like when you're really young, you get curious about certain things, and you see something like, "Whoa, okay, that's something." Like, to be honest with you, like the first time that I really saw that was, I think it was a funny experience because I was like, I think I was 13 at the time, and like we me and my sisters were trying to like look at Pokemon chips, and there was this one where it was like um uh Typhlosion X Tyranitar. I don't know if you know this one or not, but when we searched that, clicked the first link, we saw something that we knew we weren't supposed to see, but I was very confused of what was going on, especially like down there. So so I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, what's happening.
You said
Uh
Typhlosion X Tyranitar?
yeah, it was like it was Pokemon, it was Pokesmut. Like we were unintentionally looking for this. We were just like looking at like shipping pictures. We thought we were like, oh yeah, this is a good little ship. This is cute. Nope, this is not what we signed up for. But I think that's what kind of started me like looking around and stuff. And like the more I did, it I thought it was just like me, you know, having fun or whatever. I really didn't think about my bisexuality at that time. But what really did have me think about it was um around my senior year in high school. There we had, the whole senior week thing where there we have a 1 week dedicated to us doing a lot of activities, traveling and stuff. There was one time when one acquaintance that I knew, one acquaintance that I knew, uh, we talked a little bit, and we were just like, hey, we were talking about like our future after we're done here with high school and stuff. He actually admitted to me that he had a crush on me, and that's when I thought about like, oh, I didn't really realize that, or didn't really thought about dating another guy. So that's when that started for me. When I was thinking about, oh, what if he actually asked me, what would I say? And that's when, like, of course, that was around the time when I started really getting into the fandom. And, that's when I start realizing after all these times where I've where I've had crutches on girls throughout high school, and me hesitating, and then everybody just like, no, we wouldn't have dated you anyway. That sort of theme. When I started thinking about like other guys, I was like, oh, I mean, I think that'd be okay with that. And I actually, during my time in the FBA, I did had that kind of feeling for someone. Sadly, they never. I don't think they really thought the same way for me. They're not in the project anymore, but I think like being able to realize the feelings that I've had, I think that pretty much helped solidify that of me being bisexual, because it's just one of those things where it's like I've had feelings for both genders in that way, because I feel like when it comes to being attractive, I do think that it's more than just what makes the pee pee hard. Uh, yeah, but I think it's just more so that what makes you sexually attractive. But I think it's also really the feeling of love. Like, you know, you're willing to do anything to really help them see that. And I've had that happen to me as well with one fur who was a part of the FBA at that time. And um, there was one time where when I was talking to him, I did got really emotional because there was just some drama that was going on with him and some other person, and you know, I was in tears, just expressing my worry for him. So I think that on its own can tell you, like, it was definitely telling that I'm certainly not straight. So I think that pretty much just helped me figure myself out and stuff. So that's just kind of how it made me feel more happy with who I am as a person with those experiences.
We should put that on a t-shirt. Definitely not straight.
It's just like, it's like one of those, like, I wouldn't say that I'm gay, but I'm definitely not straight. That's like the perfect that's like the perfect bi shirt, really, to be honest. Definitely not straight.
Exactly. Oh man, that is a crazy story. I'm glad that you are able to express yourself in the fandom that way.
Yeah.
A lot of furs actually feel more comfortable in the fandom, being able to express themselves, like explore things that they never, considered before. And I mean, otherwise they would just be, I don't know, drifting through life.
Right.
They might be able to find themselves some other way, like through a bar or going to CD grinder meetups or something.
Oh
but
God. Yeah.
there's just something about the the super queer environment of like the furry fandom. Like, no matter what chat you go to, no matter what FA forum you type in, there's gonna be like at least one person on the LGBT spectrum, and that's kind of comforting.
Yeah, I think I think the furry fandom is kind of like, I don't want to say Diet Coke version of what like it is to fully be a part of the LGBT community, because I know that like I have been on Grindr before personally, but a lot of the dudes don't really have that kind of sense of what's a good word for it? Like, they're not as sincere. Like I mean, it's Grinder, so like most of them are just like, hey, I'm just here for a quick fuck and that's it. So
Yeah, it's like not a positive sexual expression. It's like
right,
middling on mediocrely, or because they're just concerned about getting a lay.
Right, just being able to get a quick nut and be done with it.
And furries, they want a boyfriend. Ooh woo, I want a boyfriend, send tweet. Like,
oh yeah, like I think that, like, because the fact that this fandom is more built on having that platonic relationship, that like you get to see other people like kind of explore a lot more, seeing how far they can go when it comes to that embrace of love and acceptance. And like, going back to my experience with this one person that I had genuine feelings for, he was my first. He was the first person that I ever had that kind of interaction with, and it did feel very special to me. And I don't regret it either, because it was something that we both felt that is something that we wanted to do. and I'm thankful for that, and I really appreciate that. So I think that like being able to build that kind of relationship and really get to know one another is very important to me, because if we just decide to fool around with no real substance and no real attachment to it, it doesn't really feel as special. So that's why I think that like the fandom, you're able to have more chances of that. Like obviously one night stands do happen within the fandom. Like there are people who are overtly sexual, but at the same time I think that we have more opportunity to actually get a chance to talk to one another, really get to know each other, and we can do a couple of teases here and there, but it does feel genuine. It does feel like that I have a connection with you. And if we do end up being able to embrace one another in that certain way, then it would feel much more special compared to someone who doesn't have any sort of profile picture saying, "Hey, what you doing? Sends dick pic. Want to get laid?"
Yeah, it's having that genuine connection with another person that makes it special. It's not just the act itself, because I mean, you can flip on Grindr and send a picture of your booty hole, and you have a guy over in like 10 minutes that could kill you or could refuse to put a condom on. It's
Yeah.
all good. But yeah, it's actually kind of a good thing that furries just kind of cling to each other in that way. Like, even if it is kind of inadvertently obnoxious sometimes.
Yeah, it can be, because like there are definitely times where someone comes in, just wants to give you everything, tells them how much they love you, how they want to they really want to be your mate, which I'm not a really big fan of the word mate personally, considering what the technical term for mate is, but I digress. Like being saying, I want to be your mate, I want to give you everything. You're just like, wow, this is overwhelming. I don't know what to do with all this.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have an artist friend, and he set up a Telegram account, and he would get these random DMs from furries, and he would like engage in some small talk, and he would do the asterisk hug and the cuddles, and then after 1 or 2 days, this furry would just be like, I have to tell you something. I love you. I want to come see you. I want to be your boyfriend, and all this stuff just randomly dropped on him just because he's nice. He would always ask, why me? Because you're so nice to me. And that's all they had. He was nice. They didn't know anything else about him besides the fact that he drew pictures of Pokemon, and not that Tyranitar one, but he drew pictures of Pokemon, and that he was a nice person that engaged in small talk with them, and suddenly that means you should be declaring your love for them, obviously.
Right.
You do, I guess.
Yeah. Because it's great that people really want to have that kind of relationship. And I've said this to plenty of people as well. You can't find love, but love can find you. And the only way for that to happen is to actually get a chance to know the other person. Because just because they're being nice to you and are willing to talk to you doesn't automatically mean, oh, he must genuinely have feelings for me. I think this once again goes back to the idea of how some furs don't have that social awareness, or haven't had an opportunity to be as social as they need to.
Nope.
Which it makes sense, because they're, you never know what their background is before they even got into the fandom. Maybe they haven't had the opportunity to have any like real genuine friends to feel for, especially for those who are on the younger side of things, and when hormones start to kick in, you never know what you're gonna get.
Too many hormone, brain goes stupid.
Yeah, right. So, so I think that like when people are so desperately trying to find that guy, because when you do see furries who decide to tie the knot in marriage, not the way you think, but people decide to like go to that next step, a lot of people really, feel genuine and feel like, man, it would be great to have something like that. When you see things like that, that's something you want to gravitate towards, because that's that whole sense of true happiness. But I know, for me, I think that you can't really find happiness in others if you can't find happiness in yourself. And so I think being able, like, if you want to be friends with the person that you just met or you just commissioned, I think that's fine. I think obviously we have to, separate the friendship and business side of things, because there are some furries who only use certain platforms for business inquiries, and that's it. But I think that if you want to be friends with that person, you can shoot your shot. Like I certainly sent a message for somebody that I wanted to get to know a bit more, and got totally shut down. Which I'm like, okay, that's fine. But there's not much you could do in that regard. But but when you do get those opportunities to do so, just know that, like, because someone is willing to want to talk with you, finally, does not mean that they have like genuine, like they have that kind of interest in you, if that makes any sense. Like they don't want to like dive into that kind of relationship if they don't really know you like that. So it is important for us as furs to understand that small talk is just small talk. And when you do say that, hey, how you doing? I miss you. Especially with the "I miss you" line, because that "I miss you" is just, like, so dangerous. I've had it. Some people give that to me, and it's just like, dang, you must have thought of me a lot, and you can't really just say "I miss you too," because that might get that might like be thought of completely different to what you try to mean it to be. Because like the whole "I miss you" means that, oh my gosh, I love you. I want to be able to make me feel special and stuff. I'm just like,
yeah, it's like
I don't know what to say.
It's like an inherently clingy statement to make.
Yeah, it is. It feels like that. Oh man, I am dependent of you. Like,
Yeah, kind of like, am I your only friend, bro? Like, you don't want to say that because that's rude.
right.
But you're thinking it. You're like, do you talk to anybody else?
Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like one of those things. That's why it's kind of hard for me to like, especially talking to someone who's younger than me. It could definitely be hard because, I think for a lot of us, we've been in their shoes before, where they don't feel like they have a lot of friends to go to and talk with. And so being able to talk with others, or if they haven't talked to somebody else, they think that, oh, it's because I'm not that good, or I'm a piece of shit, I did something wrong. It's like, no, it's just some people may be more busier than others, or they feel like they just need some space.
Yeah, exactly. Not one single person is going to be wholly focused on your existence,
Right. Like, I know one person who I've kind of been on and off talking with very recently. Every time, like, there was one time where I was like a little bit where I was upset a couple of days ago with some news that have occurred. that I witnessed on Twitter that kind of got me into a very upsetting mood. Especially considering the fact of like what they've done to kind of help to try and help the BLM movement within the fandom. I when that certain thing that was discovered and what they did, it did make me feel some type of way. And when they like messaged me, I just told them like, look, I'm not in a good mood, and I was really vague about like why I was upset because I just didn't really want to get into it. I didn't want to get into like a screaming match or whatever.
Yeah.
But I just said, genuinely, I just said people. I just said like people because there was so many things that was going on with within and out of the community that when I said people, that person automatically assumed that, oh, are you referring to me? And I'm like, no. Why does that have to be about you all the time? Like,
oh my gosh.
Like, I'm like, no. So I stopped talking to him after that. I'm just like, no, like, I'm gonna start yelling at you for saying that. So I was like, is that whole thing with like, if someone just says, hey, I'm not doing very well and I don't really feel like talking about it, then don't automatically assume that it's about you. Like, just be able to be like, okay, I understand. If you need me, I'm here. So, and that leaves the door open for like, you know what, I am going to talk to him about it once I've calmed down and, express my concerns. But if you automatically just go ahead and say like, oh, are you referring to me? Did I do something wrong? Then it makes me feel even less one to talk to you about it. Because it's just like, no, why are you making it seem like that it's a problem with you when it's really not. So I think that we need to understand that when people need space, we do need to respect that. Like, I don't try and go out to message a lot of people because I know that like, if some people are busy, then they're busy. Like, I have other things that I can do. I can edit a video, I can play a game. Like, there's so many other things that we have in hand, so that we don't really have to talk to everybody every day. Nobody really has a lot of time for that. So that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. And we're wrapping up now. I'm gonna have to ask you the last question. You ready
Okay.
for it?
Yeah.
So, with the Black Lives Matter movement going around, how do you feel about the things that are going on right now, and how do you feel like they'll affect the future?
I think, considering how I feel like the timing of this is really, I don't want to say perfect, but if the timing of everything that has happened has really started to making this movement truly a movement. Because with BLM, it's been going on a lot longer than this, but it doesn't really get talked as much because of the fact that there are other news that have been featured with that's next to it that kind of like buries it into the ground. Like with like the only time when people really started thinking about it was way back in 2016 when Colin Kaepernick took the knee, and everybody was basically hating on him for doing that because they think it was a dig against the troops, when it wasn't that. It was about the police brutality. He said that multiple times, but no one was willing to take that for an answer. And now, going years later, even though that we have seen people unfortunately be murdered by the police that are people of color. I think with what happened with George Floyd and how he got killed, especially during the time of the pandemic, and a lot of people really staying home, and there aren't really any sort of distractions. That's what pretty much caused everybody to pay attention to that. And with all the other ones that have happened as well, like, the case of Breonna Taylor coming back up, that happened even much prior to that. And of course, and also with Ahmaud Arbery and Rayshon Brooks, two people who died that are a part of my hometown, has really pretty much added more fuel into the movement. And I think that with how strong it has gone right now, I think that it's going to be a long-term change. And I think that this is something that we can't ignore. And I know, especially recently, with everything that has happened, where people who are demonstrators, with the demonstrators that have done some damage to the community. I know very recently a little girl that was in Atlanta was unfortunately shot and killed by people who were who say that they're for the movement, but for that to happen, I think it's just one of those things where okay, we have to understand, for us, in order for us to continue driving to where we need to be, we also have to be able to hold each other accountable as well, because I really hate that when people use the whole black on black crime statistic and saying that, oh, we're more of a threat to each other than the police, which I personally don't think that is true. There is that problem of us resorting to violence in that sort of way, and we need to do a better job at holding each other accountable and going for methods that doesn't involve us ending up hurting each other at that point. So for me, I think that once we start getting that voice, because another thing that's very unique about it is the fact that there really isn't one true person that you can resort to and being yep, this is the leader of the movement right here. There really isn't an MLK figure right now. Will that person show up? Possibly. You never know. But until then, I think that when it comes to the BLM movement, we are striving for the better, and I think that it's going to really impact this country and this world as a whole, because we're seeing this worldwide. It's gotten to the point where we are starting to see a lot of true colors now, with the number of people who have spoken out against the BLM movement, showing how little they think of us, both and within the world and the fandom itself too. So I think a lot of people were saying that, oh, this needs to die out, this is going to die out soon. I don't really see this dying out at all. I think we're just getting started, especially with how we're hearing news of lynchings that are happening, and the police not taking accountability for the people who do these crimes. We need to be able to continue to combat that and really express that while that yes, there are people who don't know how to express that in the most peaceful way, we still need to be listened to. And the only way to really prevent these things from happening is for the government and the political leaders to do what they can to help support the communities that are struggling. Because with the whole like black on black crime thing, a lot of it is because that a lot of people are trying to survive. Because I've been in those situations myself as well, where I've been in bad neighborhoods, and a lot of it is mainly because people are trying to survive to the next day. You don't know when your life is going to be on the line. So it's just being able to try and get those communities out of that status of really being a war zone. And the only way to do that is to fund them and being able to give these young kids an outlet for mentorship and stuff like that. So instead of just saying, "Hey, you just guys need to work hard to be better," and it's just like, you got to give us the opportunity to be better, because we don't get that opportunity. And I think that with what's going on right now, being able to be like, hey, let's not spend so much money on policing, instead of spreading some of that responsibility out. And I think it'll help us get there for the better. And I think that like this may go on for the rest of the year, in all honesty, because there are plenty of places where it's not slowing down. And just because the media has stopped showing it doesn't mean it's not happening, because it is still very much happening.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when this whole thing started, the media was eating it up and everything, but then, the reporters were getting attacked, and they were coming to realize that the policemen were not, in fact, on their side. No matter how much they reported that the police were on the right, or how much they cut the footage to make it look like the police brutality wasn't as bad as in actuality it was.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is that they got kind of, they got tired of it, bored of it, whatever. And they wanted to they're trying to push this sense that the movement is slowing down by not showing it on the mainstream media, by not publishing articles about how it's thriving, but how it's slowly starting to die down, and they're going to be gone by the end of July and all this stuff, which is not true. People are still out there marching in waves. The police are getting tired, overworked, underpaid, etc., etc.
Right.
Awesome. Absolutely beat those cops down. Don't let them sleep. Don't let them continually oppress just normal people just because they got, hell, they could even like not even have a high school diploma, and they could be out there beating you to death, tasing you, shooting you, taking pictures with your body, laughing about it with the boys,
Right. And I think another thing is just, no matter how many times they try and pretty much label everybody as criminals and thugs or whatever, for the small percent of people who are a part of that, who are just mainly there to do some destruction, don't let that image try and steer you away from what is important and what has started. Because it's unfortunate that things like this happen, but just like how everybody wants to use the whole Martin Luther King quote of saying that riots should be the answer, he also even says in that same interview, mind you, that the reason why riots are happening because it's the voices of the unheard. Like, this is their way of speaking out about their oppression and what they have dealt with. Like, heck, when we seeing these folks tearing down these Confederate buildings, or the Confederate statues, and that's another way of them saying that we don't want this anymore. Like this is their image of taking down the oppression, because this whole idea of like, oh, they're trying to erase history, and it's just like, no, we're trying to erase we're not trying to erase it, we're just trying to express that this imagery that you have, these big old statues looking down on us, we're not going to have that anymore. You're not going to look down on us. Like, it's time for us to see each other as equal instead of as degrading or animalistic as what they tend to do. So I think that that is a really big thing for BLM, and I think that that is going to continue probably up until like November and December, really. So hopefully everything, like with everything that is going on, especially when it comes to the with the pandemic, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, this whole thing has been crazy, and I really don't see it slowing down anytime soon. Especially when you have the big city still filling up with people wearing masks, mind you, wearing masks, using hand sanitizer, so they aren't like those Karens you see tearing down masks in aisles and stuff in Target. And it just gets into that whole thing, going back to what you said about black on black crime, which isn't a real thing, by the way. We have crime. Black on black crime is just another way of being what's the word? I guess prejudiced in a way.
Right.
To make it seem like it's the black people fighting each other, when in reality it's just them trying to survive, like you said. And
yeah,
I was wondering what you feel like poverty plays into that role, because a lot of the All Lives Matter people are also the same people that are like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, work hard, etc., etc. I feel like the All Lives Matter people need to understand where black people are coming from with all of this anger that they are throwing at these statues when they're tearing them down, when they're marching in the streets and they're telling police to stop killing them.
Yeah, I think poverty plays a really, really huge role, because at that point we're talking about domino effects here, because when they talk about, oh yeah, why are you still talking about slavery? Like, slavery is essentially the main blueprint that started the systemic oppression, because once they freed the slaves, they decided to create an entire system that once again is used for being able to gain free labor, and it'll be used for those who are who has done a crime or has done criminal activity, and when they get caught, you put them in there. And more times than not, it starts to become recognizable that a lot of blacks are usually targeted, because the reason why that happens is because the fact that those jobs that they tell us to work hard for or try to gain and stuff like that, a lot of the time, when people see who we are, we don't usually get the job. Usually the job is given to somebody else that isn't a person of color. And so once we're denied that, then what do we have to do? We have to go ahead and go for welfare and go get food stamps and stuff. And then of course what happened in the 70s when they decided, you know what, we need to get rid of that, because it's making it's pretty much that we're giving these guys privilege when they need to work hard and shit like that. So it's like, no matter what we try to do to try and get up on our feet, there's always something that prevents us from getting to that next step. Like, if it wouldn't really have none of this really wouldn't have happened if we're actually looked at fairly and equally. An example, like for when you have the whole idea of someone who has a name like Lakeisha or Tyrone compared to someone like Natalie and Josh, you'd see Natalie and Josh get those opportunities more because their names look more they are more white, and they feel like they are more trustworthy with that, because it once again feeds the idea of that all black people are criminals. And do you really want to trust a black person behind the counter? You know what I mean? So like that kind of goes into that as well, of like there's so many attributes that takes away our ability to be able to get those jobs. So with the fact that like if we're not able to get a job to help take care of our family or find a way to be able to get a place to live, then yeah, you have no choice but to go in down that route. Whether when it comes to like selling illegal drugs or having to be a part of a gang or whatever, it's because of the fact that you have to do whatever you can to survive. And you know, and I always like to use the whole thing when someone brings up the black on black crime. I'll be like, well, what about the white on white crime? More white people are killing each other. Like white people are killing white people more than black people being killing black people. So like at that point, you're just like trying to nitpick certain things to just slap a very negative label for the rest of their lives. Like with George Floyd, like a lot of people want to bring up his criminal charges that happened 5 years ago, even though he did his time. And he's looking to do things for a better. But just because what he did 5 years ago, that's enough to be like, okay, it's okay for the cops to shoot him down, even though he's done his time, even though he's learned his lesson. And even though the fact that like the whole thing really occurred because he had a $20 bill that may or may not be fake. And you mean to tell me that killing a man like us is worth $20? Is $20 enough to shoot a guy down or put their knee on their neck? Like, to me, that just like shows how people are so willing to nitpick a person's life and their mistakes in order to justify the outcome that occurred. Like, people do make mistakes, and it is up to that person to learn from them. And I don't think that just because he had a fake $20 bill should pretty much justify the fact, oh yeah, he's always like this. No, that shouldn't be the case at all. Like, you can't just say that raping someone is equivalent to stealing some candy from a grocery store. Like that shouldn't be a thing. So that's kind of one of the big things for me when people love trying to throw the whole black on black crime and people are like thuggery or whatever, is the fact that you will never understand that until you're in that situation yourself. That you're having to be like, this is the last resort and I'm going to have to go there in order to keep the lights on, make sure that I get to eat the next day. And yes, there's a big risk in that. And unfortunately, some people end up having to go into that because of it. But as I alluded to earlier in this conversation, that the only way for us to really get that to be able to diminish that a little bit, and that's just from across the board, not just when it comes to black people, but white folks as well, that are having to live in poverty, is that we have to do that we have to be able to get more money within those communities. Like a good example would be like being able to help pay for those schools that are that really do need the funding to be able to get the latest textbooks. Making sure that they're able to feed some of these kids who have to pay for school lunches and stuff like that, and really be able to improve the pay for teachers as well. Like, in order for us to have to live easier lives, is to help build up those communities that have been blatantly ignored for so long.
Oh man, that was a lot.
Yeah, I'm a chatterbox.
Hey, you brought up some really good points, though. I mean, the fact of the matter is that a lot of people out there that have lived, just by default privileged lives, that have never had to worry about, where their meal is going to come from the next day. And when they get fired out of the blue, they have to worry about if the job interviews that they're getting, after they meet them in person, after getting picked, if they're going to be able to get the job, not because of their merit. Their merits are solid, but the color of their skin says otherwise, no matter how well you think you did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that lack of perspective that people don't have. But it's thanks to people like you that we're able to get that perspective, like a first-person perspective on what it's like to be in that situation. And I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for chatting with me tonight.
It's no problem. I think that it's like this kind of conversation needs to happen. Not just within the fandom, but also as a whole. Like, the more we're able to tell what we have to go through every day in our stories, people will obviously understand that we're not doing this because we want a higher status or whatever. We want to be able to get paid more than another race. It's mainly because of the fact that me being a black man have so many things stacked against us that we have to work even harder in order to just start having an even playing field. So I think it's very important for us to acknowledge that and do whatever we can to help improve that. And that's just across the board.
Exactly. The more we talk about it, the easier it gets. And then we have, this, the perspective again, just from one person to another person to the next person. And, things get a little bit better in the communities. That's why we're trying to have that BIPOC ran furry convention. That's why we're trying to elevate the Black voices, the Native Americans, etc., etc.
Right.
Because it's every step we take is an important step, no matter how small it is.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you again, Jason. And if you'd like to support the show, just share this episode around. Tell us what you thought, what to improve, all that jazz. We've got a tip jar link below and the links to our social media. I'm at Reiner. My guest is at JXB Reviews. And my sound engineer, VioGoat, is at VioGoat. Everything's going to be linked below, including several resources for BLM and BIPOC furry chats, resources, stuff like that. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and I'll catch you next time. See ya!